If the power grid went down tonight, how long could your pantry actually sustain you? Most people think they're prepared for a crisis, but studies show that over 60% of households would run out of usable food in just 1 week. When supply chains collapse or grocery stores shut their doors, all the food you've stockpiled won't last as long as you think. Within days, perishables go bad, and even many supposedly long-lasting items spoil faster than you expect. But there's one thing most preppers forget. Knowing which foods not to store is just as important as knowing which foods to store. Stay with me, because in this video, we'll cover 10 foods you should never store long-term and why avoiding them could save your survival plan. After reviewing data from the USDA, survival experts, and real-world disaster cases, these are the foods that actually fail first, even in carefully managed pantries. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which items to remove from your stockpile before they jeopardize your survival. 1. Fresh dairy products. Most preppers assume milk, yogurt, or cream will last forever if refrigerated or frozen. They're dead wrong. Fresh dairy spoils incredibly fast. Even when stored in a fridge or freezer, bacteria and mold develop, making it unsafe in just a few days to weeks. Imagine it's day 3 of a grid failure. Your fridge has lost power, and the milk you thought would last has curdled. That yogurt you were relying on for protein now smells sour and is crawling with bacteria. It's not just unpleasant, it's dangerous. The key is not just owning it, but knowing alternatives. Shelf-stable powdered milk, or UHT. If you thought dairy was a no-brainer, wait till you see the next food that surprises even seasoned preppers. 2. Fresh breads. You probably have a loaf of bread in your pantry right now, but it's a ticking time bomb. Fresh bread molds extremely fast, especially in humid or warm environments. Even vacuum-sealed loaves can develop mold in just 3 to 5 days. Picture a blackout scenario where you plan to use that bread for sandwiches. On day 2, the bread shows green and white patches. Eating it risks food poisoning, and now your protein and carb sources are dwindling. The solution is storing long-lasting alternatives like hardtack, freeze-dried bread, or baking flour and yeast for on-demand preparation. These last months to years when kept dry and sealed. If you think that's bad, wait until you hear how most preppers' favorite canned veggies actually fail in a survival scenario. 3. Fresh fruits and vegetables. Everyone loves a fresh apple or carrot, but they're not your friend in long-term storage. Fresh produce rots quickly without climate-controlled storage. Ethylene-producing fruits like bananas, apples, and tomatoes accelerate the spoilage of nearby vegetables. Day 4 of a disaster? The peppers and tomatoes you thought would last a week are now soft, leaking liquids, and giving off a foul smell. Even if you try to eat them, the risk of foodborne illness skyrockets. Instead, invest in dehydrated, freeze-dried, or canned vegetables. Freeze-dried fruits retain nutrients for years and don't require refrigeration, a true survival staple. If you thought vegetables are always safe, the next item might completely shock your prepping strategy. You might think nuts are an ideal long-term snack for your stockpile. Surprise, they're one of the trickier ones to store right. Nuts and seeds are rich in oils, which go rancid faster than you'd expect, especially in warm, light, or humid conditions. Imagine day 10 of a supply disruption. You reach for that jar of cashews you stored months ago, thinking you were being smart. But when you open the jar, instead of that rich, nutty aroma, there's a harsh smell, maybe a metallic taste. The oils have oxidized. That jar is not snack safe anymore and could give you stomach distress. The key is not just stacking nuts, but storing them airtight, in a cool, dark area, or even frozen if possible. Label them with the date opened so you rotate out older ones. As a survival food, you might favor shelf-stable fats like coconut oil or freeze-dried nut butters that resist rancidity better. If that caught you off guard, wait till you see how something as basic as rice actually fails faster than expected in long-term storage. 5. Brown rice, and similarly high-oil whole grains. White rice seems like a survival classic, but what about brown rice?
you'll want to rethink how you treat it. Brown rice contains the bran and the germ, which means more natural oils. Those oils can oxidize and spoil much faster than you'd assume, making brown rice a higher risk staple if you're storing long term. Day 15, you open your long-term food stash and grab a bag of brown rice to cook.
You find insets, maybe an off smell, or the grains have turned sticky or discolored. Instead of a dependable base, you're dealing with a food you may have to discard or risk your health with. If you're going to store grains for the long haul, go with white rice, which has a much longer stable shelf life, or store brown rice in truly cool, airtight, oxygen-reduced containers. Vacuum-sealed plus frozen is ideal. Rotate your stock regularly. Treat brown rice more like a medium-term staple rather than truly long-term. Now that we've covered oils and grains, next up is one of the biggest surprises in your pantry: condiments and cooked items. Number 6. Opened broths and pre-cooked sauces. You likely have a few cans or cartons of broth or sauce in your pantry, but once opened, those become risky real fast. While unopened shelf-stable broths and sauces may last, once opened, they fall into the category of items requiring tight time-temperature control. Their shelf life drops dramatically, and they can become a source of foodborne danger if left too long. Picture day 20. You open a carton of chicken broth you stored months ago, thinking you'd use it for soups in an emergency. You realize halfway through preparing the meal that the broth smells off, is slightly discolored. You either toss it, waste, or risk it, food safety. Meanwhile, your meal plan is disrupted. Once you open any sealed broth or sauce, consume within a few days or freeze leftovers immediately. In a true emergency, avoid relying on pre-opened broths. Instead, store fully sealed shelf-stable boxes and consider alternate stocks you can make or dehydrate yourself when needed. And now, the 7th item might be one you'd never expect to fail on you. Number 7. Olive oil and other cooking oils. You'd assume oils last forever, but in reality, they're quietly working against your prep plan. Oils like olive oil contain unsaturated fats, which are prone to oxidation, especially when exposed to light, heat, or air. Over time, they'll turn rancid and lose nutritional value, and become off-tasting. Day 25 of crisis. You bring out your stored cooking oil to sauté some vegetables, but instead of that smooth flavor, you get a sharp, bitter taste. The oil has gone rancid. You either have to throw it or risk using a degraded product. And when you're relying on every calorie, that loss matters. Store oils in dark, cool spots in tightly sealed containers. Use smaller bottles so you're rotating more often. If you have freezer space, consider freezing oils. They'll just solidify. Or use alternate shelf-stable fat sources like ghee or canned coconut milk that resist spoilage better. Keep track of open date. If you're still with me, hold on, because we're about to shift into a more serious zone. The real risks, the harsh truth about food storage in a crisis. We covered 4 more high-risk items for long-term storage: nuts and seeds, brown rice, open broths and sauces, and cooking oils. Each one reveals that simply buy and store isn't enough. You must understand how spoilage works and how to protect or choose better alternatives. Here's what most people don't realize. During a widespread supply or infrastructure collapse, your pantry may fail faster than you expect. Not because the shelves are empty, but because the foods you counted on go bad early, leaving you vulnerable. When the grid goes down, refrigeration stops, heat builds up, humidity rises. The foods that were safe in the cupboard start to develop bacteria, mold, rancid fats. The sound of the fridge may be silent, but inside the shelves your food is silently deteriorating. But those who prepare smartly, those who understand which foods to avoid storing long-term and how to protect what they keep, will be ready when it counts. And the last 3 items on our list? They're the most overlooked. Many preppers don't even want to talk about them, yet they'll make or break your survival pantry. Number 8. Fresh herbs and greens. You may love sprinkling fresh herbs and leafy greens into meals, but in a long-term situation, they're one of your biggest pitfalls. Fresh herbs and salad greens wilt, spoil, and grow bacteria rapidly, especially in warm, humid conditions. Even in perfect refrigeration, they often last only a few days. Picture day 30 of your survival scenario. You harvested a few basil leaves stored in a sealed bag you thought would keep for a week. Now they're limp, slimy, and smell off. If you still eat them, you risk gastrointestinal upset, and you also wasted space you could have used for truly long-lasting food. The key is not just thinking we'll eat everything fresh eventually, but having alternate options like freeze-dried herbs, which retain flavor for years, or focusing on hardy greens like kale in dehydrated form. If you must keep fresh greens, use them fast and rotate regularly. Treat them as short-term perishables.
Number 9 is something many people assume lasts forever, and they'll be shocked when they find out it doesn't. Dark chocolate and specialty snacks. Snacks are morale boosters during crises, yet that beloved dark chocolate or specialty bar might backfire when you least expect. Even foods like chocolate contain fats and oils that can oxidize, and in warm or humid storage, they can bloom, a whitish film, or develop off flavors. Additionally, specialty snacks may not be sealed for ultra-long-term storage and can attract pests or spoil more quickly than you think. Day 40, you open your emergency treat box to boost morale and reach for that premium dark chocolate bar. Instead of a rich flavor, you get a gritty texture, chalky bloom on the surface, a stale taste, and because of that, you miss your snack window and morale suffers. Worse, the oil has gone rancid and your body registers it as bad fuel. Choose snacks designed for long-term storage. Vacuum-sealed, low-moisture bars, freeze-dried fruit bars, or shelf-stable protein bars. Store chocolate only in cool, dark places. Rotate every 6 to 12 months and keep an eye on packaging integrity. Don't assume premium means long-lifing. And now for number 10. The most overlooked, yet arguably the most high-stakes item of all. Cooked leftovers, home-cooked meals stored long-term. If you've pre-cooked meals and frozen or stored them for emergency use, you need to pay attention. This can be your downfall. Prepared foods, cooked meals, or leftovers are highly perishable once they've been handled, exposed to air, temperature fluctuations, or reheated multiple times. According to food safety guidelines, leftovers in refrigeration should be eaten within 3-4 days. Beyond that, bacterial growth and toxins may make them unsafe. Imagine day 45 of your supply crisis. You stocked a bunch of pre-cooked stews sealed in containers, thinking you'd just heat them when needed. You open one now, the color is off, there's a faint sour smell, you hesitate, your gut says no. If you eat it anyway, you risk food poisoning. Alternately, you throw it away and lose precious calories and nutrition when you most need them. If you plan to use home-cooked meals in a survival plan, consider freeze-drying or canning them properly, rather than simply sealing and forgetting. Store them in airtight, oxygen-reduced containers, label with dates, freeze when possible. If relying solely on refrigeration or standard containers in a long-term scenario, you're playing with fire. If you've been with me this far, now we hit the tension spike and shift into the closing segment, where you'll realize what it all means for you. Here's what most people don't realize. During a major crisis or supply chain breakdown, the real threat isn't just running out of food. It's that many of the foods you've counted on will fail early. They'll spoil, go rancid, attract pests, or become unsafe long before you expect it. When the power goes out, the stores shut, the trucks stop rolling, your pantry becomes your supermarket. But instead of calm preparation, you find mushy bread, rancid oils, slimy greens, off-tasting snacks. The silence outside is heavy, the fridge is quiet, but inside, each container something unnoticed is breaking down. You realize you're not just hungry, you're vulnerable. But here's the truth. Those who prepare smartly, who understand which foods to store, how to store them, and which ones to skip entirely, will be the ones who hold the advantage when it matters. And you're doing that now, You're learning. You're ahead. And the closing segment will tie it all together. The action steps you must take tonight and the tease for what's coming next. When the next crisis hits, whether it's a grid failure, supply chain collapse, major storm, or extended emergency, you won't have time to react. The decisions you made in calm times, today, will decide everything. Even small steps today, checking your pantry, rotating your stocks, swapping out the high-risk foods you learned about, can keep you and your family safe tomorrow. You don't need to do everything, you just need to do the right things. Tonight, go check your pantry. Pull out the foods we just covered, herbs and greens you've left too long, specialty snacks you haven't rotated, home-cooked meals you assumed were safe, and make the move. Replace them, restore them, or remove them entirely. Comment below, which of these 10 foods surprised you the most? I read every comment. Because the next 90 days could change everything. And in the next video, we'll reveal the 5 Pantry King foods that truly do last decades. Most preppers don't even know them. I'll see you there.